So what are the core aims and objectives of the Trust that John set out and are still very much relevant today? Promote understanding of and interest in Scotland's built environment, support the conservation and reuse of historic buildings. But it's not just about old buildings, it's about encouraging the highest quality in new architecture and public space, and to contribute positively on planning matters. I think that makes us quite unique as an organisation in Scotland. These are the projects that take up most of our time. The Buildings at Risk Registry Doors Open Days. I'll go through some of these just now. That's our current website. That's a sneak preview of the new website, which we're launching later this month. Doors Open Days, now in its 20th year, as John said, started in 1990. This is part of the European Heritage Days programme, and I can't praise highly enough the work of all the local individuals and organisations involved in putting together this programme. We're the national coordinator, we help market the event, we produce the website for it, but really all the work is done by groups around the country, whether it's the Coburn Association, or Perth and Kinross Civic Trust, and Glasgow Building Preservation Trust, all the groups around the country that put together this wonderful programme of events in September. This September, 923 events took place in all 32 local authority areas throughout Scotland, which works out at around 80,000 unique individual visitors, or about 250,000 visits, which is quite remarkable. We've branched out recently into social networking, for those of you familiar with Twitter and Facebook, and currently we have over 1,000 Twitter followers and 700 Facebook friends, all generated in the last 6 months. The photo art competition is part of the International Heritage Photographic Experience. This year we received entries from 16 different local authority areas, and we received over 300 entries from primary and for the first time ever secondary schools. The purpose is to encourage children to think and learn about the buildings and places around them. The Scottish Civic Trust Mine Places Awards is funded by the Scottish Government through the Architecture and Place Division of the Built Environment. This replaces the old Civic Trust Awards in Scotland. This year's award is won by Castleman Stables by Eldrin Cannon. This award is unique in that it's not an industry award. It's an award where entries are nominated by local groups around the country, such as yourselves. We've just launched the 2011 award and have introduced a new category of Civic Champion to recognise the work of individuals protecting and promoting their local, historic or contemporary built environment. The Buildings at Risk Register, which of course we continue to run, it's been in operation again since 1990. It was set up, as John said, by the Trust, what is now called Historic Scotland, in response to a concern at the growing number of listed buildings and buildings in conservation areas that were vacant and had fallen into a state of disrepair. And we used to publish the Buildings at Risk Bulletin, which went out once a year, eagerly awaited. All the information is now available on the website. And we've changed the website slightly recently to promote success stories. And the reason being that the purpose of the register was to act as a marriage service, was to shine a light on listed buildings that were threatened with demolition or destruction or were falling down, and to try and marry them up with potential developers, and try and help owners to repair and restore and reinvent those buildings. And these success stories, Castleman Stables obviously very successful, just examples of what can be done with historic buildings with imagination, quite a lot of money. Buildings at Risk, some statistics. Currently, according to our register, this figure changes all the time, obviously. 2,385 buildings at risk, 135 currently being restored, demolished 355. This is our national survey of A-listed buildings around the country. The blue dots are all the places that our team visited, which you can see over the last 2 years, 3 years, our Buildings at Risk team have visited thousands of buildings around Scotland. Really quite a remarkable achievement. I can say that because I wasn't involved. Of the category list A entries, 3,667. Entries assessed, 92% of those buildings were assessed by site visits by our bar team, which is fantastic. And as John said, we've just published a book. I'm sure it's not as good as yours, John, but it's a short book, The Use of Old Buildings, and you've all got a copy of that. An important part of the Trust work, and something that I'm keen to develop, is what's called local heritage management. We get a grant to to deliver this from Historic Scotland. It's all about capacity building, it's all about working with the local groups to build up your skills base and to help you. This is something that we're going to be developing over the next 12 months. The work of that department involves technical advice, involves casework, dealing with planning applications, running conferences. Today is our I believe this conference used to happen in the 1970s, but it's been dormant for quite a while. So this is an opportunity for us to restart the annual conference. And it's all about disseminating advice, comments, guidance. We do some conservation area appraisals. Recently, Jim Wilde, our technical officer, carried out a conservation area appraisal for the town of Keith for the Murray Council. And our current programme for local heritage management, we split up into education, engagement and partnerships. So, if I just touch briefly on what opportunities are presenting themselves to the Trust over the next 12 months. Opportunities, I said, to develop the Trust network, to relaunch the civic movement, to improve our services to you, raise our profile, to campaign for a better built environment, collaborate proactively with all our key partners, lobby politicians, and to generate new forms of revenue to allow us to do all this. The threats are not having a lack of voice, the impact of the spending review, competition from other organisations, a lack of resources. We want to widen our network and to include partnerships with lots of other like-minded organisations. Scotland is a very, the built environment, heritage environment industry in Scotland is very busy, overcrowded some might say, but there are lots of like-minded organisations, and I think now more than ever these organisations need to work together to achieve our shared objectives. These are just some of the organisations that we currently work with and hope to develop our relationship with. And we will be developing our means of communication through e-bulletins, a printed newsletter, social networking as I mentioned, getting more engaged proactively with the press, more constructive criticism, and also getting political. Income is important to us. We currently are funded through Historic Scotland with funding coming in from rental, through some donations, but we have to be creative in how we generate income from other sources, and from fundraising to legacies. We're looking at maybe having a friend scheme. Don't worry, we're not going to have a membership scheme, not yet. Hopefully hospitality events, look at overseas foundations, maximise Doors Open Days potential. So we're looking at all that over the 12 months to see how we can maximise our income generating potential. The main opportunity in order to develop the Trust Network. The Civic Trust Network it's the lifeblood of the organisation. It's our raison d'etre, and I see it as my central role is to re-engage with groups around the country. This is a map that we geo-mapped of local groups around the country. A lot of these addresses obviously are home addresses, but it gives you an indication of the scope of the organisations that are out there. Interestingly, there seems to be a large part of the Western Seaboard where there are no groups. We suspect there are, just none that are currently affiliated to us. As I say, there are currently 110, and that ranges from the Coburn Association to the Shetland Amenity Trust to the Glasgow Tree Lovers Society, so it's quite diverse in terms of the range and functions of these organisations. They have all sorts of different names: civic societies, history societies, conservation societies, Friends of Glasgow West, Friends of Glasgow Necropolis, amenity societies, preservation societies, heritage societies. So it's, as I say, it's a real mix of organisations in terms of your remit and your functions. What do you do? We've carried out a number of surveys of the local trusts over the last few years, and we're planning to do another one over the next couple of months. But to summarise, what we understand what the organisations do, and you can point out to me later in the Q&A session in the afternoon if there are things that we've missed out. But scrutinise planning applications, try and prevent unwelcome or inappropriate developments, undertake projects aimed at protecting or enhancing the environment. You have an advisory role, you work with schools. Sometimes you operate some kind of facility, maybe a local museum. You act as a watchdog. You publish guidance material. Some of you are Doors Open Days organisers. You organise town heritage trails, guided walks and award schemes. It's quite amazing really what's done out there, mostly on a voluntary basis. And if you look at some of the websites of these organisations, they look like, in many cases, large professional bodies. You discover that these are just individuals doing this in their spare time. I think it's a remarkable testimony to your work and to the work of the civic movement across Scotland, what you managed to achieve. And I think it needs to be more widely recognised, and I think it's the role of the Trust to help raise your profile and to help you to achieve all your objectives. This one, the Badenoch and Strathspey Bay Conservation Group, on its website, it says the object of the group is to stimulate public interest in and care for the beauty, history and character of Badenoch and Strathspey Bay, to encourage active conservation of the area through wide use, to encourage high standards of planning and architecture in harmony with the environment. What's wrong with that? You know, that is exactly what the Scottish Civic Trust is about, and it's what all these groups have been set up to try and achieve. I think it's a very clear definition, very clear statement of intent. There's the Banff Preservation and Heritage Society, the Coburn Association. It's existed before the Scottish Civic Trust. Coburn Association is a wonderful organisation that again runs just a handful of staff, but lots of voluntary support. For example, they have the Save Our Skyline project and the Haymarket campaign. The Galloway Preservation Society, helping preserve our built heritage and environment, Dumfries from Galloway. A very proactive group, the Linlithgow Civic Trust. Our own project manager, Alec Adamson, is involved in that group. We're delighted to have some representatives here today. Dundee Civic Trust, Pollock Shields Heritage. Welcome to Pollock Shields. And this project here, we used this picture to illustrate the conference. This is the COSI. This is a project which is synonymous with the West Cross Causeway Side Association in Edinburgh. I think it's a real exemplar project. The West Cross Causeway Association was formed in February 2007 in response to the COSI, which is a temporary project that was part of the Six Cities Design Festival held in May 2007. Emily Wells and Blommeyer, from the Arcade Architects, or project leading this, is here today. This project transformed the place from a car-dominated, rather depressing space, a traffic island, into an elegant tropical island for local people to enjoy. And following the success of that project, the West Cross Causeway Side Association have decided to pursue COSI to continue the spirit of the COSI and to make a permanent transformation of the space into a place for people. Again, if I could just read the statement on their website. The West Cross Causeway Side Association aims to promote the amenity and environment of the West Cross Causeway area and promote education, learning and enjoyment for individuals who are either a resident or where their place of employment is in the area. Shetland Amenity Trust. This is one of the projects that Shetland Amenity Trust is involved in, Belmont House and Unst. The Trust construction team have been working hard to restore this beautiful Georgian house to its former glory. This property is on the UK's most northerly Isle of Unst, and when restorations are complete, will be available for hire for functions and accommodations. Newry Hill Burris Hall Trust. They do lots of things, but some of the things they do are workshops, and they let folk, including children, meet craftsmen working on building restoration, and they get their hands on with wood, stone and slate, and help with the restoration by doing some of the pointing work in Newry Hill Burris Hall Trust itself. The workshops that are illustrated here were run for local adults ranging from 20 to 80 plus in age, students from Glasgow Metropolitan College, and a class of P7 from a local primary school. So it's just a fantastic example of how people of all ages can get involved in these projects and have a wonderful time. So these are just some of the examples of the tremendous work carried out by groups across the country. I'm looking forward to meeting some of you today, more of you today over the coming months, so that we can work together to achieve our shared objectives. The role of the Trust and its affiliated groups is more important than ever in these challenging times. Our job together is to protect our historic buildings and to never again allow them to become threatened, but is also to make sure that what is being built today is of the highest possible quality. After all, the modern buildings of today are the historic buildings of tomorrow. I'm just going to end, as John began, with the first director of the Scottish Civic Trust, Maurice Lindsay. I'm going to end with this quote. At this stage of our evolution towards the good life, the imagination satisfied that the arts and an environment that stimulates and refreshes should be regarded not as a luxurious frippery, but as a basic human right. I think that statement applies every bit as much today as it did then. Thank you.